Hey there, welcome to season 2 of The Kingdom Business Owner. I'm here with my good friend, Jordan Kamps, and today we're talking about excellence, we're talking about identity, and also what does it mean to succeed? If this conversation does not convict you, I don't know what will. So this is a conversation that will bless you. Check it out today with my friend, Jordan Kamps. Well, hey, thanks for joining us on The Kingdom Business Owner. I am here with a good friend, Jordan Kamps. Man, I was telling my wife this yesterday. I just deeply respect the man that you are. I respect you. I look up to you both physically. I look up to you because you're taller than me. But also, man, I just have a lot of admiration and respect for you, the way that you run your business, the way that you lead your family. Yeah, man, I just genuinely, and I mean this, I genuinely feel so honored to call you a friend. So
same. Yeah, it's good to get to know you in Foundry and now beyond a little bit. So it's been good.
Come on, man. All right. So I know you. I know what business you run. A lot of our listeners don't. Who's Jordan Kamps? Give us like the 60-second version of who you are and what company you run, your family.
Yeah, Jordan Kamps is a married man of 24 years.
Yeah, he is.
And that's its own wonderful blessing. 4 children, 2 married now, 1 grandchild that is a year old, and 2 that are in high school, all married young, obviously, and started young. And I've been an entrepreneur really since the beginning. Felt that in me early on, and in my early 20s, started that journey by moving to Colorado, starting a business that was a stone slinging business. And that started as Bedrock LLC or Bedrock Slingers. And now that's about 5 divisions. We called the umbrella Ground Solutions. And then I also partnered with another founder, Justin Buxbaum, 9 years ago, and we started On Demand Concrete. So we've started a number of businesses. Those are the 2 that have been consolidated into those 2 entities. And we employ about 160 people and have multiple locations, doing business mostly in Colorado, a little bit in Salt Lake City, Utah now. And it's a joy to be here.
Come on, man. Come on. I can't believe you're a grandpa.
I know,
That's crazy, man.
But I'm loving it.
Your golf swing doesn't indicate that you're a grandpa. I mean, you got a young
You've
golf
only
swing.
been with me a few times. You haven't seen it all.
Oh, that's good, man. One of the things I really respect about you is there's a deep humility in how you walk and talk. You're not a flashy guy, and I really appreciate that about you. As we talk about kingdom business ownership, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of kingdom business owner? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, in that order. Starting off as a young 20-year-old, there's a lot of immaturity in life and understanding of what is business, your people, your influence, your authority, what is money and how does that fit? That all was growth and learning. So to me today, I see business as the God-given opportunity to have a platform of influence. And it must be successful and profitable to continue. But the important part is, what do I do with those profits? And what am I doing with those people that God has given me to steward? And I'm so much more deliberate of that in my mid-40s than I was in my early 20s because the maturity has increased and changed. My relationship with money and assets and material things has changed so much. So I think it's a natural progression. As young people, we have this idea that to have much is a great thing, and Jesus warns and says, "Oh, be careful. That's the great temptation, and the love of this is the root of all evil." But as you grow, you start to learn that relationship is very true. That God gives you these things to have for a time, just like your family and children, and you must do well with it. And so I see now an obligation and a responsibility to do well with that, to help my community. I'm a blessing to the people around me in the way that I lead them, and Lord willing, that evolves into their family and goes into their communities and how they use their money. I want them to hear God's word. I want to hear that from me, but also I have a responsibility. And what am I doing with it? What am I showing those people? And that's by far, I think, the most powerful lesson I can give.
Come on, man. Talk to us about your relationship with money. How has that changed and evolved from when you started this business to now?
Well, I see that early on it was survival mode, right? I go into business, you have a living, I have a young wife, soon a child on the way, and you're looking for just making to pay the bills. Getting a business going is a grind, you know this, and you're not really thinking about where this is going. If God blesses the work materially, now you have excess, and I got to that point where I started being able to pay off my bills and then operating cash, and felt very strongly about having as little debt as I could, not wanting to be, having other masters right over me.
Yeah.
And there's a calling there to be wise. And then after he's blessed with more yet, it's what do I do with this? Now I have enough to give, to tithe well, and grow a business. What am I doing it for? What's my motivation? How does that change? And I think there's a time where in pride you think I want to be bigger and better than so-and-so in the industry, or, looking around you, who is my competitors. And while I'm a very competitive person, then God steers your relationship to say, oh no, this is a tool and I must do well with that tool. And so those lessons have continually been learned in the last 20 years. And now I look at it as grow and invest, but then take what you have and use it as a blessing to further the gospel, to help people, to pay them better. And then, hopefully they do well with that money and also become the same type of person in their community or church. So those are all the lessons that have been growing.
Hey, real quick, just wanted to take a quick break in the podcast. Thanks for listening. Wanted to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, StoryPath Marketing. I deeply trust these guys because they do our marketing. I trust them. I believe in them, which is why I can vouch for them. StoryPath helps brands build meaningful pathways to their customers through the power of storytelling. A great story is powerful on its own, but when it's paired with strategy, creativity, and expert execution, it can literally transform businesses, strengthen communities, and create lasting impact. And so, they really want to bring stories to life through fractional CMO, project management support, AI-generated content, photo content creation, graphic design, SEO, social, the whole gamut of marketing these guys can do. And as a special offer for all KBO listeners, they're giving away 10% on the first 3 months of service when you work with them. And so we are very particular with who we bring on as a sponsor, but man, I trust these guys. So check out StoryPath Marketing. So good. So good. Man, there's a lot of entrepreneurs that I know that think that a kingdom entrepreneur is, I just need to grow my company, make it successful so that I can give to my church and give to nonprofits. And I think there's a part of that that's really sweet and good. And yeah, we're called to cheerfully give, and I'm all for that. But I think that there is a ministry that people miss, which is what you just said, the ministry of paying our people better. Like, man, I want to grow a business so that I can pay my people exponentially more than what my competitors are paying. And man, that's a worthy cause. That's a ministry that I think people miss out on. Or they don't think about it. Like their theology is not impacting how their business is shaped. And so my question to you would be, man, how has your theology shaped your entrepreneurial journey as it relates to paying people, marketing, anything?
Yeah. Well, I think the number one part of theology is how you treat your people and then how you treat customers. And some of our core mission and values revolve around what are we doing with this business, right? We serve now in the thousands of different companies, which means that there's that many more people in a company you're having an effect or rubbing shoulders with. So you have a reputation, you have a name in the industry. You're partnering with them for them to be successful on their projects. We're in construction, so we're part of the building process. And how that goes is part of how are we doing well for other people. So there's step one. And the other step is, what are you doing inside your office with your people day to day? You're handling their bad days, their accidents, their struggles and frustrations. How are they being treated and what do they see? So that theology comes to bear in, what do I see in other people? And how do I treat them when they make mistakes, when they fail, when they're struggling, when they're hurting?
Come on.
You're bringing Christ's love, or you're bringing something that's quite the opposite, which is it about me or is it about all the people around you and that influence? And then secondarily, your theology is a follow through on, if God blesses the work and there's excess, then what do I do with that? And for me, I believe in investing. Like God's given me, in the parable of the one given the talents, right? Whether that's money, ability, talents themselves, actual virtues, things that you do, you're called to use those. And the one servant that was criticized was told, you buried it in the ground and you did nothing with it. You're a lazy, slothful servant. The one that doubled it was considered a very good servant. So I believe that, one, the business should be pursued from the point of view of, if there's more people here, there's more influence, and we're doing better things with it, and that continues to prosper, then your influence and what you're touching is doubling or tripling or quadrupling. May the Lord bless that however he will.
So good.
And so that's been part of the journey and learning and seeing it that way, not pursuing it just for growth's sake, but for that motivation.
It's so good, man. So good. Man, I think as kingdom entrepreneurs, our businesses should be the best in the industry. And so I'm curious, just from your theological perspective, how do we differentiate ourselves from secular businesses to kingdom-run companies? Because there's also secular companies that do excellent work. And so what is the main difference between a company that does excellent work and does higher quality products and higher quality manufacturing, whatever it might be, versus a kingdom-run business? I'm curious your perspective.
I would say it probably comes down to motivation, the why I'm doing it. There's excellence that results in typically better profit, right? Executional excellence is necessary in order to run a good business profitably. And then what do I do with that? I think the people around you are going to see and know the motivational difference. If I'm standing inside the office and caring about that bottom line so much, why? Is it because Jordan personally needs to profit and then generate a certain income to live a certain way, and that's why I try not to be flashy? Or is it, no, he actually rewards me. He there's profit sharing here. I see what he's doing in the community. He actually gives a bunch of this away.
That's good.
People can buy in really fast with, is this about the owner's second and third house, his vacations, his lifestyle, or is this about really him believing and standing behind what he said? And is that motivating for them to say, hey, what should I be doing with my money, my time, my community? So hopefully that example is the difference.
It's really good, man. It's really good. Let me ask you this question. How often throughout the day, as you're running the different department, different businesses, are you thinking about Jesus?
Lord willing, every hour. Yep. Did I do that when I was 20? I didn't. I'm getting better at that. I think sometimes the Lord has a way of smacking you, saying, think about me, and I'm going to bring it before you by bringing trouble, stress, things that feel too big for me. I'm getting a lot of opportunities with people coming knowing, hey, I'm hurting. I have needs. My marriage is coming apart. And then Jesus is brought to the forefront really quickly because it goes right outside of the norm. And you realize that there's only help that Christ can give. I can be the words in the vehicle for those words, but I'm going to point him to Scripture. I'm going to point him to why I am who I am and what I believe in. And, we've had death. People get cancer and die by us. I've had, accidents where there's nearly that happen. And those times, Christ is brought to your mind really fast. Yeah. But even when there's success, when it's typically where we tend to think of Christ the least, that's where he's now given me a mindset of, this isn't happening by accident, right? These things are happening for a reason, and you can't just look at you and say, oh, you've done it all. And if you are, you're being foolish. So that perspective continues to grow. But what a man feeds himself with, he will think of. And so a lot of that has to do, how do I start my day?
Yeah.
What am I putting in myself in my day? It's the same as nutritional, right? If you're putting junk food in, expect, some poor results. And if you put spiritual food in, Christ blesses that, right? What is my water and my bread?
So good, man. Yep. So good. Yeah, that's really helpful. The reason I asked that question, I think another thing that is helpful for Christian entrepreneurs to hear is that part of what makes a kingdom entrepreneur is, yes, they're building their business for God. Like there's an excellence component. We want the best quality product. But I think the more important aspect is the withness, not just the forness. What I mean by that is, I can build Foundry for God, but if I'm not doing it with the King of Kings, if I'm not doing it with Jesus, then I mean, it's kind of all for nothing. Like it has to be both. It can't just be one or the other. And so I think it's important for people to hear, like, man, I want to do this thing with Jesus. Like, I want to anchor myself to him and link arms with my creator as I create. So anyways, have you seen that in your own life? I mean, obviously you've been an entrepreneur for a long time, man. And so I'm curious, like, practically, how have you started to build with Jesus in your business?
All right, good. Psalm 127 or 128, except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that build it. So if you have the mindset that I'm doing the building, it's my wisdom and my way, we fall short, and God doesn't promise the blessing. So walking with our Creator every day is really crucial. My last Foundry meeting, my leader, Justin Bolin, we were talking about, I presented, and we talked about, what is Jordan's need right now in his business? What can we talk about very much practically for you? And I said, well, I'm looking at a director of operations. And I said, it's a little bit unnerving for me because I see it as such a key position because of its influence. I've always been the person that people come to, and I've had to wrestle with, is this an identity issue? Like, you think that you're so needed in the business? I'm also worried about, I feel like I have a lot to do with the culture. And if I step away from the heart of the operations, am I going to be touching my people less and therefore having less impact on where this is going? And I think it was Justin that brought up the fact that he said, well, maybe you should think about this a little bit differently. He said, how busy are you to where you can have time for those little conversations when you want them, when you see that opportunity come up, that you can spend it? And I said, I'm struggling. Like, my business is very busy and I have to work my butt off to keep up. And there's not a lot of times where I get to go out and have, free time. It's cherished when I do, and I need it because it's a mental break. But he said, what if that person took some of those things that you're doing every day and allowed you to feel relaxed enough to say, I've got the time to go have that little conversation. I've got the time to go plug into that person. And that's a struggle. I think that's real for most business owners. As you're in the grind and you're wearing all the hats, it's very easy to say, ooh, there was an opportunity. Somebody's hurting and I can see it, but I don't have time for this today. And you have that tear between the responsibility of running the whole business and keeping that afloat from a business perspective to where you had that opportunity to touch somebody, but I don't have the time. And if I do it at the end of work, then my family starts to pay. It's hard enough for me to get home to see my wife and kids. I want to do that by 5 or 6 o'clock and have dinner with them. And yet, I need to go have this conversation. And now I want to go pray with this person and actually talk about personal things. Oh, that just went 45 minutes longer. Wife, when are you going to be home? I want to see you. So you have that. And so now I'm starting to realize if I can add capacity in my day, maybe to have a little less take home, but that's okay. But if I've got time to maybe you can actually push your culture better. Maybe you can touch people more personally. And I thought, ooh, that resonated. So make sure you're hiring enough around you in terms of your structure that not only do your leaders have the ability to be that along with you when they have those opportunities, but me personally, that I get to do that and have time for it. So that struck a chord with me that made me go, I want to hire this person even faster. You're helping me see the light because I can actually do better, maybe not less better with that position.
100%, man. 100%.
Yeah.
Some of the people that I respect the most, the word that I would describe about them is available. And we see that in Jesus' life, man. Like, he was available. The dude was so busy. He wasn't just Sabbathing all day, every day and leisurely dude, he was working his butt off, man.
Yeah.
But he was available. And like when needs came up, man, he met the needs and he stepped into the gaps when the gaps needed to be stepped into. And so, man, that's really good.
To the point where his disciples said, not right now, hold this person off, quit bothering him. He's got work to do. And Christ said, no, bring this person over. And they're looking at him as a bother. And Christ said, this person needs me right now. Yeah. That feeling, that pulling apart. Yeah, I think most of our entrepreneurs know exactly what I'm talking about. It's a very busy life.
It's really good, man. Yep. Yeah, that's really good. Back to the excellence piece on business. I've been thinking about this example specifically about why excellence matters in business. But I think you and I both know there's different coffee shops, for example, that like there's Christian coffee shops that have like verses on the walls, but their coffee is terrible. Like it's like just, I mean, you and I are both coffee guys, and so
Yeah.
we cherish and value good coffee. And then there's the maybe more agnostic coffee shop that makes incredible pulls of espresso, and like their stuff is made in house, and it's incredible ingredients, and you might be paying a little bit more, but it's you delight in it. I honestly think that the agnostic coffee shop is honoring God with their work more than the one that just puts a verse on the wall and sells crap coffee. And so, man, curious to hear your thoughts theologically on that. And then also, how does that apply for our businesses and our listeners' businesses?
Well, what we're called to do, we're supposed to do well. And I think that means in everything. So sloppiness, laziness, a product that's only so-so and you don't improve it, does speak to some level of either laziness or lack of execution. I think in 1 Timothy 3, you have the parts of what does it take to be an office bearer, who's qualified. And one is one who does not run well his own house, should not be shepherding the house of God. If you can't run your own house well, then how are you going to run things in the church well?
Yeah.
To me, there's a parallel there, right? If you can't have excellence there, why are people to look at you and your religion and your faith and say, to me, that looks lazy. That looks undone. That doesn't speak well of who you serve.
That's good.
And if I serve the one who says, do it well, and I've created you to do good work and work hard, granted, there's different levels of capacity, then I think it speaks to you kind of who you are, your nature, and who you're serving. So a lazy or an unwell done coffee, I think also reflects your attitude as to how you view your work each day.
Come on, man. So, that's so good. Okay, I want to riff on keeping your house in order.
Okay.
I know that that's deeply important to you. In the time that we spent together,
How so?
How do I know that?
Yes.
The way that you talk about your bride, there's not a ton of men that I spend time with where it's the amount of respect that you have for your bride and the way you talk about her. I'm like, oh yeah, man, this guy takes this serious. And then the way that you talk about your kids and how they are following God and how they're working with you and how their marriage is set up. And, yeah, man, there's just, your legacy's legit, man. Like from the outside looking in, you have a legacy that's really inspiring. And so, how have you done that and still been able to scale a business?
Praise the Lord. Love to hear that. What do you want on your gravestone? What do you want to be remembered for? That is in my mind. I think in the early days, you don't think of legacy. And now in my business, I'm old enough to start thinking about where I was 20 years ago and what does the next 20 years look like, because that's probably all I have left. Most men aren't going to live, and work well into their 70s. And the same thing that you're talking about, there's a legacy in work, but I think is as strong or more strong in your family. And to me, you have the influence that you have with your employees, and what do they see and what do they hear, and what are you about, and how does that influence them for good is more important in the family. You're raising up young leaders, and you're raising up the next generation of fathers and mothers, and the home is the heart of society. It's the structure God gave, husband, wife, and family, that was instituted in Genesis 3. So you have there the very building block of society, and I would say that's why we're going awry here and in all places. When you start to pull what God has put together apart, then so does society follow. I'm very interested in children that praise the Lord with me, and one day maybe have this influential spot that I've been given, and they need to be prepared well. And so we've invested in them. It's a huge part of it. And it's also a great honor to see that God blesses that work, because it's not promised, but it's awesome to see it. It's awesome to see young men taking their spot in marriage, or young women as, embracing the role of motherhood and now doing that. And I've been thankful to have children that love the Lord and obey and want to do what's right. So it's quite a gift and quite amazing. And now I hope that legacy is that they'll follow in Dad's path. But yeah, you have 20 years with them. For me, 19 to 20 is all it's been. And I've been chuckling and saying to the younger two, hey, it's okay if you stay a little longer. We love you guys. We want you here. But it's also that two-edged sword. You've raised them to be independent, mature-minded children, and all of a sudden they're ready to take up their place. So
so good, man.
Quite a blessing.
How did you invest in them?
Well, every day it starts with spending time with them and in what's most important. Devotions around the house at the end of the day after supper. They're gonna come before the Word of God, and they're gonna hear us pray for them and for each other and for the church. They're gonna see, Lord willing, an example of what that means. That's critical, because same thing. Your words are only good if the example's following it up. Then it's embedded in them. They're gonna go to church every Sunday. Life is learned by what's priority. So you said, how do I raise a family and grow a business? Well, it all takes balance, but if your heart is into the money and the material, I'm going to drive that business, it's going to be the best, and you've forgotten them, I look at you as a failed case.
Yeah.
It has to be both, and you'd better scale back the business first if the family's suffering. And that's hard. Like, that balance is, you know, you're on the edge of something good, but I just need to give a little more here, and then you feel the same way about your family. That's a constant pull. But you have to be there for them. And so working 5 days a week is good. 6 is better be a half day or less. And I'm guilty of having pushed it many times, and there's a breakdown and I stay late, and then make that up, right? Go on family vacation, shut it down, spend that time together, and all those parts and pieces add up to, hopefully they see that, you were a part of their life, and they see that this is what's important to you.
Hey, just want to interrupt the podcast and give a quick shout out to Primal Bison. This is one of our sponsors, and I can vouch for them because I eat their stuff almost every day. My family and I eat their steaks, eat their ground beef, eat their sausage. It's 100% grass-fed bison, and man, these guys are the real deal. They're giving us a 10% discount to all listeners. Use the code FOUNDRY10 to get 10% off of every order on bison. I can vouch for this because I am a pure believer in these guys being the real deal. So check them out, primalbison.com. So good. On the last podcast episode that we recorded, one of the things we talked about is the definition of success. And someone who disciples me said, success equals the people that know you the most respect you the most. And I just, for whatever reason, thought that was so interesting because, I can have you deeply respect me, but if my children and my wife doesn't respect me, like, I'm losing. I've lost.
Yeah, I agree.
And so what do you say to the person that has maybe missed it, has missed the mark? They're like, man, my business is actually doing really well, but I've lost the respect of my children and my spouse, and I don't know how to take the 180 shift. What's your encouragement if you're sitting across from them right now?
It's never too late. Who knows how God will use you in the remainder of your days, months, or years. And the amazing part about the gospel is that Christ forgives, right? We all have to live that. And so maybe some need to learn to forgive you, but they're going to learn to forgive when they see change. So make the changes, and make those changes, like I'm saying, hire earlier and put somebody in that place so that you can be a man on both sides. And if that means less profits, so be it. But don't give up on that part. Seek to mend those relationships and show them that you can be a new man, and that Christ gives second chances, because he does. And if you look at the man on the cross next to him, he lived his whole life and wasted it. And yet he said, today you'll be with me in paradise. He was still a saved man. That can't be said for everybody, but Christ gives chances all the way through. And you look at some of the men he converted in their years, look at Saul, who became Paul, who was persecuting the church, and he turned him into one of the mightiest preachers and apostles that ever lived. And how much good did he do? Well, if you've been given a week to do good, or a month, or 10 years, do well with it. That's what he says to do. So it's not too late.
Come on, man. So good. So good. Let's land the plane with this question. We have entrepreneurs that are listening that, man, they love Jesus. They're running a business, and they don't always know how to integrate their faith into their business.
Yeah.
They wrestle with it. They're maybe have tried different things, but then it feels like off color. What would be your exhortation or encouragement to that person?
I like that question. that has been a journey for me. It started for me to start to understand that when I'm with a customer, I have an opportunity when I have a breakfast or a lunch with them. And my first step is, hey, may I ask a blessing on this food and drink before we start? And I've never had somebody say, no, thank you. So I pray with them. I don't know where they stand religious-wise or spiritually, but oftentimes that leads to questions. I have had opportunities so often to counsel and give advice to my employees. And that also ends or begins usually with some amount of prayer, and I'm going to ask if I can do that. That's already a witness. I've learned that God gives you a choice and a place of influence, that if you take the opportunity to start with a few words and bring something spiritual into your conversation, that there's your starting point. And sometimes that opens up the questions to really start to ask about the hope that lives in you.
Come on.
And you got to pray for boldness. It doesn't come naturally to us. I don't know why that is. I don't know why it can be a discouragement when you're young. Maybe you don't want to be ostracized. You don't want to know what the reaction is if it's negative. We live as a people that, have a level of pride that needs to go away. And if I live the phrase, as we begun, I must decrease and he must increase, and I really believe that, then you look for opportunities to say what you can. When somebody's hurting and you can talk about the Bible and Scripture and what is the hope, when you see somebody lost and you see them on a pathway to destruction, you can't show greater love than to bring the gospel of Christ.
Come on.
Bringing fellow Christians in at your leadership level and then saying, hey, this is a safe place to talk about Christ, to pray, and I want this for my other employees. I want you to do this with them. When you're given that opportunity, do it. You start with that influence, you make it safe there, and then let it extend from there. So I look very hard for Christians in my leadership group. I can't find necessarily that for every position, but I would say we're probably the majority. And so that creates and helps push a culture of integrating your faith in the workplace.
Yeah.
I write a newsletter and I put things in about, Christ. So it's not in your face, but if you read it, you know where I stand. And may that open the door to that opportunity. You talked about having, what I would call an open door policy, being available. And I think that's important that people know that that's alive and well at your place, because it means not only are you approachable, but that you're approachable for a reason. It's because I care about what's going on in your life. And I can say that and not live it, or I can actually pursue what is going on in your life. You seem down. How can I help? How can I pray for you? Where are you at for church? Where are you at for your life? Do you believe in Jesus? What does that mean to you? And now we have an employee that started a kind of a men's group, and that's starting to blossom. And I really appreciate that about him, and that he's taken that, because it's very hard for me to do follow-up and continue with this many people. And so I love that there's there's a group already happening with some fellow employees that are being vulnerable with each other. Would you be interested in this? So when that kind of stuff's going around, it's not at work. It's not, hey, you have to be a part of this, but it's happening here, and there's people that are having life-changing events and things happen. Well, then you're starting to see that blessing develop. So those would be some of the practical ways I would see that you can implement.
So good. Man, that's just years of you cultivating culture.
It is. It's not quick. It's years.
It's not quick, man. It's not quick. Yeah. Were there moments where you felt impatient of like, man, why is this, why, not even talking about fiscally, I'm talking about culture-wise. Like, why are we not where we want to be?
Oh, yeah. It's hard because you have to put a lot of energy into running a business and having it maintained. This doesn't happen easily. Anybody that runs a business knows it's hard.
Yeah.
And so you're putting a ton of energy there too. And then it's, oh yeah, I've got to make time and really make this important as well. And so I would say also be patient. Growth has allowed for specialization in the business. And with that comes the ability to hire in specialized places and sometimes free you up to have more of that opportunity. You can't always get there in the early years. And so if God prospers the business and allows others to come in, try to open yourself up for those opportunities so that you can have those times. And that's growth. That's a wonderful thing about it.
So good, man. I think if someone is listening to this podcast and they didn't get some type of conviction from our conversation, they weren't listening. Like you had to have heard conviction. And so, man, I just want to say thank you for having the conversation. Thanks for your humility, your vulnerability, but also just you have a bold conviction about Jesus and how you live that out. It's not just words. And so, anyways, man, it convicts me. It's got to convict people who are listening to this. Thank you for being on the podcast and having the conversation.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me.